So a warm welcome to everyone. There have been, for anyone who may be joining us who is not already familiar with Prout, what we are, who we are, and the work that we do, there's a number of links already posted in the chat. And we'd greatly appreciate, of course, for everyone to access those links and to do all the things that you're usually asked to do with social media, etc., as far as liking and sharing, forwarding. Just in case there's anyone, from what I can see from most of the participants so far, everyone I think knows me. And for anyone who might not, my name is Dada Mahapragyananda. I'm talking to you from Portugal. It's a little bit cold here where we are, though the sun is shining, midday for us here almost. And I was asked to moderate this program today. And in preparing for that, a few very general thoughts came in my mind that I'd like to share. Those of us who are familiar already with Prout and its ideas know very well that we embrace technological innovation and the importance that has for society. And yet, of course, in doing so, we need to also think about the ethical, the moral, and the elements of it that relate with social and economic justice and justice in all realms of life, collective life and individual life. It made me think of the recent fanfare that went on in the mainstream media with the celebrity-based highlighting of billionaires who take themselves towards outer space, and how it was so loudly proclaimed and congratulated in all the mainstream media. But of course, there are deeper issues related to that, whereas space exploration and the movement of humanity beyond this planet is something that we look forward to and welcome the benefits that can come from it. But what about the situation back here on Earth and the relationship of those people who have access to those possibilities at this point in time in relation to everyone else? So in a similar way, there has been so much popularity and focus on the issue of cryptocurrency, and many speak of its benefits along the lines of decentralization and anonymity, etc. And my dear brother Govinda is going to, I think, address more of those types of issues today, and I'm going to turn it over to him. He will speak for about half an hour, and then we will open up for Q&A following that, and tentatively also, depending on how it goes, also for about half an hour. So as you might have read already in the announcement that went out, Govinda is a very, very, very long time activist with the Prout movement, and in his personal and professional life, he's well suited for this topic, because in his personal and professional life, he's been a software developer for many decades, and in the last several years has been focusing intensely on and preparing a book that hopefully soon will be published about monetary theory and a monetary system that presents a Prout-based perspective on that whole issue. So without any further ado, I turn you over to Govinda, who will speak about the topic cryptocurrency in relation to Prout.
Thank you for having me here. I was asked to make a presentation on cryptocurrencies, and it's the first time I've done so. I mentioned it shortly when I've been talking more broadly on monetary issues, but this one will be focused on cryptocurrencies, more specifically whether cryptocurrencies are useful tools to implement progressive economic theories such as Prout. You could rephrase that and say that, ask ourselves the question is whether cryptocurrencies can be helpful in promoting a sustainable and equitable society where we live in harmony with each other and nature. And I'll try my best to throw some light, show some light on that. Cryptocurrencies, as Dada mentioned, has had a lot of interest of late, and the positive things that are usually arguments for it is, the first is that it's a peer-to-peer network. It means that you are not depending on a central authority, but you are each one transacts directly with another party, and you don't need like a bank or something as a middleman. And that also gives an issue that you don't have a third party risk, which means that if the bank fails and your money is in the bank, you lose the money, basically. If a government is issuing money and the government loses a war or gets the state falls apart, then you lose all those money, as one see, for example, in many examples in history. Now, because it's peer-to-peer, also transaction costs are very low. When I transfer money from one country to another, many times you pay anything from $30 to maybe up to $80 to make a transfer, which is a ridiculous amount of money for just some digital transfer over the internet. Furthermore, one could say that as it doesn't have no central authority, it's sort of egalitarian, that all participants have equal power, at least in theory. You don't need to depend on a government or the evil bankers or anybody else to mediate what you're doing. You're free. You get the freedom to transact openly between each other. Now, still more things that are said that is possible is that Bitcoin is not inflationary. And it gives you, the money is more likely to gain value and it rather than lose money. Now, there are other cryptocurrencies that are done differently, but Bitcoin, by its design, cannot really lose value on the long time. It has the gain value, which gives you an opportunity for capital gains. If people are interested in it, you make, if you buy Bitcoin and hold it, you're likely to make money in the long time. Final thing I would mention is that it's pseudo-anonymous. It is anonymous in the sense that the Bitcoin wallets are they are not linked directly to an individual, a person, but they're pseudo-anonymous because the whole ledger, every single transaction that has ever been taken care of happened with the Bitcoin from the issue of the very first Bitcoin is available for everybody. You can download it on your computer and verify, check every transaction and movement of money that has ever taken place. But it is only pseudo-anonymous because you don't know the ownership of these Bitcoin wallets, and the reason for that is because they are based on a private key, basically, and the one who has the private key is the one who owns the money in the wallet. But This all maybe sound good, but there are also problems with it. This is the story you have, and this is the arguments for it, but there are some difficulties with it, which we'll come back to later on. But before we do that, let us start to first go through and understand what is a cryptocurrency, right? If we're trying to explain that whether it's good or bad, let's understand what it is. There are many different implementation of cryptocurrencies, but what they all have in common is that it's a digital money that is based on blockchain technology. Now, what then is a blockchain technology? The blockchain is, as the word suggests, a chain of blocks. And what is a block? A block is a simple set of data. And in the case of, it could be anything, because you can use blockchains for almost anything. But in the case of cryptocurrencies, the block tells what new money has been created and from what wallet money has been transferred into which other wallet it has been created. If there is a transfer where the amount that is going out of the wallet is more than the total amount that goes into wallets, the balance is the transaction fees that are created that are collected by those who are verifying. We'll go back to that. Now, a blockchain is interesting in that it is a decentralized ledger. It's available to everyone. As I said, you can download it and keep it on your computer and check every transaction of Bitcoin that has ever taken place. And the reason why you can do this is that it is very hard to fiddle with. Whenever a new block is added, it has to create a hash, a hash algorithm based on the SHA-256 algorithm in the case of Bitcoin that validates all previous blocks that has ever taken place. And therefore, once you're adding a new block and that one now verifies itself plus all the other transactions that has ever taken place, it means that in order for someone to fake the ledger, like in a bank, you could go in and change something and move money from one person to the other, but you cannot do that because that means that all the hash algorithms, like this digital signature, will suddenly fail. So it means that in order for you to change any transactions in the Bitcoin chain, in the blockchain, you would have to change every single block from the time the change took place. And as there are many copies of this spread all over the world, it's basically impossible to do so. Now, let's say also normal money, we should also say digital. There's no money these days that is physical. So just because it's digital doesn't mean it's a cryptocurrency, but they are kept differently. Here, the money is issued by an authority, and you believe in it because of that you believe in the authority. Like you put your money in a bank you trust, or you live in the government and you trust the central bank. So money is issued by banks and by central banks. The ledgers are centralized and controlled by whoever is issuing the currency. And that's the difference between a cryptocurrency and a normal electronic currency. So let us then try to think of how does this cryptocurrency work? Now, there are many different cryptocurrencies. So let us take the most well-known. We take Bitcoin and make it as an example of, so we could go into others. I don't know all different, but let us take Bitcoin now. We said that the transactions are peer-to-peer. So for example, I want to send money to Chaitanya in Portugal to help him with some Prout or something like that. Now, does this mean if we say it's peer-to-peer, that means I should be able to send the money directly to Chaitanya without any intermediary, no bank or anybody else should be stand in the middle, isn't it? But as sending money involves changing, modifying the blockchain, adding a new block to the blockchain, does this mean that anybody can modify or add blocks to the blockchain? Not quite. It turns out that even in cryptocurrencies, you need an intermediary. It is not to peer-to-peer, really. And whereas the intermediate in a banking transaction is the bank, the intermediary in Bitcoin are miners. So what the heck is a miner? He does not dig gold or iron out of the ground. What he does is, okay, so what does he do? The first, what the miners are supposed to do is they are supposed to verify the block of data about new transfers and add it into the blockchain. When a block of data is ready to be published, there's been so much that it is ready to lump them into one block. Then actually these miners compete to verify it. And who can be a miner? Anybody. You or me or anyone else could actually start to mine Bitcoin if we have the computing power to do that. Now, why would you have people compete to try to mine cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin? It's because it's highly profitable. First of all, the rewards come in two senses. First, when you verify a chain, and about one chain every 10 minutes is being verified in Bitcoin. It varies on other cryptocurrencies, but first you get all the transaction fees for transferring that money, for verifying this Bitcoin. Then, and the other thing is that you receive new Bitcoin. Right now, you get 6.25 Bitcoin for every block that is being verified. Now, at Bitcoin, as to was yesterday I checked, it was $62,000 per Bitcoin. That means that for verifying one block, you receive then $387,500, which is quite substantial, plus then the transaction fees for it. So those who are into it for the money. Now, how do you then verify a transaction? Could you and me and anybody else do it? Okay, I'm going to get a little bit technical on you, and those who are not interested in it, shut off your ears for the next minute or so. Or you don't, it is not so important to know exactly, but maybe someone finds it interesting. What is the basis of the verification of a block is a hash algorithm called SHA-256 that was developed by the NSA, the National Security Agency, and made public. It is a one-way hash, which means it's very easy. Once you have a text, it can be one line, one letter, it can be a whole book, it could be the collective works of Shakespeare, or it could be a music record, anything. You can make it a digital signature that is unique. And even if you change one tiny little bit in millions of characters, the whole hash changes completely. Now, so the job now for a Bitcoin miner is to find, you're supposed to make a hash of all the information in the Bitcoin, plus you add a number, and when you add the number to the to the information, you should end up with a hash that is smaller than a certain target. Now, this may sound complicated, so you don't need to get all in it, but basically you're looking for a number. They call it a nonce, number used once. And because of the nature of a hashing algorithm, it's very easy to calculate a hash from something you have. It's almost impossible to create a message that results in a given hash. So the only thing you can do is to guess numbers. It's impossible to calculate it. At least nobody knows how to do it. So you have to guess. Now, in order to verify at a one block, at the present, you need to guess in average 73 sextillion guesses in order to get it right. Anybody knows what a sextillion is? Well, it's in this case, it's 73 with 21 zeros behind it. It's 1,000 billion guesses. So you have 73 sextillion to be able to guess this. And the one who first comes up with that guess will get the chance to verify the block. Now, this is not always fixed. Every 2016 blocks, which is about every 14 days, the target is readjusted to make sure new blocks are added every 10 minutes. Now, if it turns out that it is too easy, more people are creating blocks, then you make a target more difficult. And if it is not enough blocks being made, then you make a target easier. But generally, it becomes more and more harder every time, which means more and more computing power going up. Now, the reward is also halved every 210,000 blocks. So it means every 4 years, the amount of rewards in Bitcoins you get, it goes down to half. Now, if you want to find out how this hash works, I'm actually going to share my screen this time, because just for these ones, it's hard to visualize. If I can share my screen, isn't it?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'll share it here. And okay, can you see this? What does it say there? You can read my Ethereum wallet, okay? Now just we're going to make a simple, ridiculous simple hash. We say we're going to make a hash, which means I just take all these letters and arrange them in alphabetic order. Then this is what happens, okay? This is what you get. And this could be a hash of my Ethereum wallet. Now, anybody, if you have a little bit of time, you don't need a computer for it. You can sit down and arrange them in alphabetic order. I mean, it's very easy. But if you started with this and I asked you to tell me what was the original word that was used, now that's not so easy. And this is for a computer, it's very easy. What the computer would do is just take all of them, rearrange them in all possible ways, and check it against the dictionary to see what it is. It will solve this in less than a second. But this is sort of the idea of hash. Let's try another example. Here we start with a hash. Now, anyone could they tell me what this should be? What this is a hash of? Not that easy, is it? Even though this is comparatively a very, very simple hash. But okay, so in this case, it's Bitcoin mining, all right? So it's easy to go from one to the other. It's difficult to go from the other back to the other, okay? So I thought it's easier to demonstrate what the hash is by giving an example like that. All right, now let's look at some statistics on Bitcoin mining. In order to do this enormous calculation, takes enormous computing power. Someone commented on that also in one of the messages I saw. And in order to make it even more easy for people, they take a lot of people with enormous computing power and they gather in mining pools. As of 2013, there were 6 mining pools that controlled 75% of all hashing power for Bitcoin in the world. And by 2017, 70% of all the hashing power and 90% of all transaction came from China. It means that just as the banks control the creation of money, miners and mining pools controls the creation of Bitcoin. Therefore, there is more similarity between the Bitcoins and the banking system than what you would think. Because in the banking system and the monetary system in this world is also a decentralized capitalist system. The governments don't really make the money, which is what many people think. It's the banks that create money in the process of lending money. And when it comes to cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Bitcoins are created of creating money through by miners through mining. And in the banking system, banks collect fees for their transactions. And in the Bitcoin, miners also collect fees for their transaction. And the sad thing is that in the normal banking system, the rich bankers get richer and take over a big share of the market. And at the same thing in the Bitcoin, the rich miners with the biggest computing power, they take over bigger shares of the market and make themselves more rich. Now, then we had this issue about inflation. One of the things is that they said inflation. Okay, I've looked at some of these Bitcoin videos on YouTube, and they come out and say inflation is theft. And I can understand it. If I have money and it loses value and I cannot buy as much as I could with it before, it's natural to feel like you've been robbed. But whenever money changes in either direction, you will have winners and losers. If on the other hand, you had a loan on a mortgage on your house and there was inflation, then suddenly you would be pretty happy because the value of your loan becomes less. So it's easier to pay it back. So it means that inflation is good for people who owe money and it's not good for people who have money. And there's much more people these days who have a lot of loans than those who are sitting with a lot of cash in their bank. So therefore, inflation hurts basically those with cash and is helpful for those with loans. So it goes both ways. You could say it's theft, but people both gain and benefit. But the same thing is true on deflation. Deflation is mean when something increases in value, which Bitcoin definitely has done. If you have money and it increases in value, of course you will feel happy. You get a capital gain. That's what all capitalist speculators are after. You buy shares and stocks and bonds. I buy or sell options. I do short selling, I do whatever it is. I buy trackers. All this is for something to increase in value without me having to work for it. I just guess right, and what I put in money, and after some time, I have more money without really doing it. And this is the same whether you invest in cryptocurrencies or anything else that you can speculate in the market. But if we now turn it around. That is good if you want the Bitcoin just as a speculative thing and you want to make money on it. But if assume that it was the currency that we were going to use. Say you took out a house loan worth an equivalent of $200,000 in 2015, when Bitcoin was 300 to the dollar. Now you have just been, say, paying off the interest since then. And now what you have to repay is today's value of the Bitcoin is $62 million. It's very unlikely that your house you bought for $200,000 would be worth $62 million now. So you would be definitely worse off. So both inflation or deflation, if money changes value, it benefits some and is bad for others. We talked about privacy also. Of course, I also don't want people to see what money how I transfer and transact my money. I prefer privacy. But there are some people are even more concerned about this than I am. For example, ransomware criminals. If it wasn't for cryptocurrencies, they could not do any ransomware attacks. Because what do you see? Oh, please send it to my account in Citibank. Okay, this is my name and my account number. It wouldn't work because then they will get caught. The money comes. Even terrorists, drug cartels, anyone who wants to launder money, they are the ones who really benefit from the privacy. So what is the right balance? You could say it's good with privacy, but at the same time, the society, it also helps people who are not doing anything good for society. But the worst thing is probably the environmental impact on this mining of cryptocurrencies. For Bitcoin alone, it is calculated that it uses 178 terawatt hours annually, which is about the equivalent of the electricity used in Argentina or the Netherlands. So if Bitcoin was a country, it would be one of the most 30 top electricity consumers in the world. And it is because the target is getting harder and harder, the number of guesses that gets more and more for every time you want to create a new block. It means that the increase in electric power is going up exponentially. Because of that, Elon Musk came out some time ago and they were discussing, and the Bitcoin miners came to him and they said, okay, we're going to switch to green energy. But it's sort of an impossibility. Right now, 40% of all electricity production globally comes from coal. And coal is the most polluting of all the electrical productions we can have. Now, if Bitcoin mining buys up the limited amount of electricity produced by green energy, then it means that that green energy is not available for other people, and they will use more coal. So it really doesn't matter who it is that is using. You cannot say, oh, I'm so environmental friendly, I'm using only renewable electricity sources. No, that will be fine if we have everybody, we had enough power generation with renewables in order to make sure that everybody can do things with renewable energy, but it's not the case. The case is that any extra electricity consumption is going to basically go over coal, because that come out of coal, because that's the only place where we have enough flexibility of increasing the production when we need it. So what's the verdict? Is cryptocurrencies good or bad? Okay, my take on the whole thing is that it's a non-issue. A cryptocurrency is a technology. Blockchain is a technology that can be for good or for bad. But presently, the banking system and the monetary system as it is, it concentrates wealth and destroys nature. Now, the current implementation of cryptocurrencies are more of the same thing. The basically underlying system is just another technology that is causing the same major effect in the world. So the question is not about crypto or not crypto. What we need is to change the whole monetary system, that it supports a sustainable economy, protects nature, and promotes equality and equal opportunity for everybody. Now, Isaiah Berlin discussed about 2 types of freedom. And the freedom you get from the libertarian use of free market capitalism and of Bitcoin theory is negative freedom, which means I am free to do what I want and nobody should stop me. That means that I'm free to, if I can live the American dream and make myself rich and if other people fail, it's not my problem. I should do whatever I can to make things better for myself. And if someone stops me, they're interfering with my freedom. The problem with that is that it interferes with positive freedom. Positive freedom is to having the opportunity to do what you want to do. If someone is born in a poor country, or he has a poor education, or he doesn't have rich parents, then, or he's working long hours and he's just barely making ends meet, he doesn't have the opportunity. He's also not free, because he does not have the possibility to do the things that the person who were complaining about negative freedom, being allowed to do what he can. These people are not able to do it because they're lacking opportunity. So there must be a balance between the two. To say that I should be allowed to charge any price and pay any wages and have any salary I like, that is an expression of libertarian negative freedom. To say that everybody should have a minimum wage, we should have a maximum wage, stopping people from being overly rich. We should try to present a possibility where everybody has free education and medical care. This is an expression of positive freedom, where you give an opportunity for everybody. Hence, the very foundation of right now, both free markets and the present monetary system and implementation of cryptos support the negative freedom but ignores positive freedom. Therefore, the foundation of the monetary system has to be changed. Cryptocurrencies can play a part of it, but just like the rest of the monetary system, it needs to be reformed in order to fulfill this, in order to perform this function. So a future monetary system, we need a monetary system that is rooted in nature and that promotes sustainable and equitable society. And cryptocurrencies can be an important part of this, but changes would need to be taken place. For example, we would probably need to move from proof of work, and actually there's another concept which is proof of stake, which instead of doing mining and wasting energy, they make it so that people get like an interest. The more cryptos you have, the more part you get of the new cryptos that are being created. That is a proof of stake. But even that will support the ones who have a lot of money will make more money. What we could have is a proof of eligibility. If you say I'm making a cryptocurrency that is meant for local development, then anybody who is part of that local community could benefit from the increase in the money supply. It's also important that cryptocurrencies would have a flexible money supply that doesn't make them inflationary or deflationary. And if you're just going to rely on a computer algorithm, then you cannot achieve that. Bitcoin has a fixed amount of 21 million Bitcoins. That is the maximum that ever will be created. Ethereum, on the other hand, they create 18 million new units of money every year. But even so, that is also in long-term deflationary, because the percentage of increase year by year, of course, is going to go down, right? Because you're adding a fixed amount every time, so that's a percentage of what is like that. It will reduce. So what we would need is, I don't think this can be solved by just a mathematical formula. It has to be based on policy, where somebody looks at what is happening in the economy. The human society is very complex, and we would need to be able to make some more smarter way of controlling the money supply. There are examples of cryptocurrencies. We don't have time now. I've said about half an hour. I've gone over like 5 minutes, so I will stop now. But if you are interested, you could look at, for example, sovereign money. That's HTTPS sovereign.money, which is an example of a cryptocurrency that claims that it's developed in order to help with local development and to empowering communities and so on. Okay, I will close this. I hope this helps to at least get some kind of introduction to what we are talking about. And then for the rest of the program, I'm open to even listen to comments or take questions as you like. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Govinda, and everyone. And interesting thoughts near the end there about the possible combining the synthesis of local currency schemes and local development with crypto looking forward into the future. So Niranjana, yeah, if you want to ask a question or make a comment, you can either use the chat or raise your hand. For those of you who may not be familiar with Zoom, if you want to raise your hand, go to the participants icon and click on it, and next to your name, to the right side of your name, you'll see raise hand, lower hand. So Niranjana, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Govinda. That was very interesting because I don't know much about cryptocurrencies. You made one comment towards the end that I wanted to see if you'd be willing to clarify. You said that the current monetary system is damaging for the natural environment. I understand how the current economic system is very damaging. Could you explain how is our current monetary system damaging for the natural environment? Thank you.
I would love to do so, but because it builds on concepts that are, you need to introduce some fundamental concepts that are not so well known. It's a fundamental thesis and point of the book that I'm writing on a new monetary system. So I could try, but I think it would take up a lot of time, and it's not really linked to.
But just in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Okay, the monetary system and the banks and the financial system, monetary system, it's very hard to draw exactly the line between them. They are the ones that allocate resources in the community. If you don't have money to fund something, it doesn't get done. Now, the reasons for creating money is banks create money for the purpose of making profits, no other reason, because they create it in the process of making loans. People think that banks lend out the money that people deposit. Actually, they've got it backward. People deposit the money that banks lend out, because all the money that exists in the banks, they wouldn't exist unless a loan first had created. Now I can prove that, but it's not. It's counterintuitive, but that's how it is. Therefore, by allocating, giving out credit, that's how resources are being extended. Now they will do what is the most profitable thing. And the profitable thing is that they should not be taken, people should not be able to pay back the loans. That means for the business, that means the businesses have to be profitable if I should fund it. Now the most profitable businesses are two. One, those who take and they just reallocate resources from people who are poorer to those who are richer. They don't do anything. That's speculative things, so especially taking commissions on people who do speculative transaction. But the foremost profitable thing is to be destroying nature. Nature has a value by itself, but it's not accounted for. I account for the amount of the cost of taking oil out of the ground. I don't account for the cost of creating that oil in the first place. So basically all our economic growth is based on the depreciation of natural wealth. And hence, and why do we do that? Because it's the most profitable thing that we can possibly do.
Got it. Thank you very much. That's a great response.
All right. Okay. You can go in if you're interested. Send me an email. I can send you extracts from my book and whatever. There's a lot more to say, but that's. Let's.
So there's quite a few comments and questions coming in the chat as well. But Rajesh Singh in India has his hand raised. Go ahead, Rajesh.
Yes, thank you, Dada, and many thanks for such a good and nice presentation. But in my personal view, it's just a presentation on the cryptocurrency, not in the perspective of Prout. That part is missing. There is nothing in perspective of Prout as the topic was given. Cryptocurrency in Prout's perspective. So first part is very fine. There is a nice presentation on cryptocurrency, but Prout's perspective is missing first. Second, I have two questions and I will ask one by one. The first question is this cryptocurrency is contrary to the first fundamental principle of the Prout, which is in Sanskrit is Samaj Adeshen Bina Dhan Sanchaya Akartavya. It is no individual should allowed to accumulate any physical wealth without the clear approval or permission of the society. So is this process of cryptocurrency is contrary to the first fundamental principle of Prout? The question is to Dada Govinda. Am I clear,
Okay.
or need I repeat the question?
Yeah, everything is clear, Rajesh. I would say the first thing that you say that I talked about cryptocurrencies, but I didn't talk about Prout. Well, the only way for you to be able to judge for yourself how far cryptocurrencies are useful to Prout is if you understand what cryptocurrencies are and what the dangers with them. And after that, it is easy for people to draw their own conclusions. And as you said, right now, cryptocurrency as a technology is neutral. It could be used for Prout, but the way that it's implemented now, the same as the current monetary financial system is implemented, is not supportive of Prout, because, as you say, the first principle of Prout, definitely there's nothing there. This is meant for the people who are rich get richer, and those are poor that get poorer. It just supports the more of the same things. I'm saying cryptocurrencies is a non-issue when it comes to it. We need to make Proutistic changes, and then cryptocurrencies could make a part of it, but cryptocurrencies in themselves do not help to make for an equitable, fair society in line with Prout principles.
Okay, thank you, Dada. And keeping your answer in mind, I am not asking another question. So host or moderator is requested to carry it forward. Many thanks, Dada.
Okay, so Mahadev has his hand.
Okay, yeah, I saw the first question someone said from Dada Pavanananda. He asked if you need that if you can make money on cryptocurrencies without spending a lot of time online. But again, here, yes, if you invest in it, the value goes up, you make money, but then it's the same as you're investing in stocks or bonds, or it's just a capitalist speculation. If you use cryptocurrencies as a way to speculate, then I would say, yes, they are likely to keep on going up in value. So as such, but it doesn't solve it can solve somebody's personal financial problem, but it doesn't solve any societal problem. It rather encourages more speculation and inequality.
And the simple answer to not spending more time online for it is get someone else to do it for you. Mahadev, you've got your hand raised.
Excellent presentation. So at the end, you referred to a sovereign currency that had more of a social benefit. Would there make any sense for we Proutists to develop a cryptocurrency that had a social mission and that was linked to our various Prout projects or EROS projects? And is there an existing cryptocurrency that has a social mission attached to it? And would it make sense to pay attention to that?
I would I will agree with you broadly, but I would put a little bit otherwise. If we have a block level planning situation or a situation where we want to develop a certain community, I think a local currency is very helpful, and it makes sense to implement that one as a cryptocurrency. And there's no problem with that. And it would be good to develop a currency like that, but I think that's why I gave the example of this sovereign dot money, because it is just one out of many which have actually tried to do something similar. And I think it's something that we should look at, and maybe we could maybe make our own Prout digital currency that are specifically designed in such a way that it will help to increase the purchasing capacity of people in local communities in a positive way, and avoid all the drawbacks with the other currencies. What it has is that it gives some transparency, and that you can see what is going on. Nobody can cheat it, or when you have local currencies, there's always a chance that someone can hijack it for their own means. So implementing it as a cryptocurrency could be a good way to do that.
Thank you very much.
There's a question in the chat. What is the benefit for El Salvador having made Bitcoin legal tender?
Sorry, but I cannot see any advantage.
Looking in the chat, there was a whole nother set of questions that came earlier.
There's something about this, about the electricity consumption in Bitcoin, and will Prout support section. I think it's totally, absolutely, if you say maximum utilization, okay, you take first principle, you take second principle of Prout. There should be maximum utilization and, okay, of all resources. I mean, this is the most stupid use of resources. You're just wasting electricity, and there's so you for no benefit whatsoever. So I would not say that it's Proutistic at all. And again, about the dark web, that's what I said. It's a problem with anonymity.
Can I say something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Excuse me, electricity, how much power, energy, and light to produce gold? So how can you say that because Bitcoin or crypto consume electricity, something should consume that cannot come from nothing? But if you can compare with the production of gold, that people die, chemical, pollution. So how you can say that, the crypto is not a Proutistic?
I can answer that, because when you are trying to, first, you don't produce gold. Gold is produced by nature in the formation of the country. You find it and dig it up. But when it comes to, if you're asking a question and you finished your question, when you ask for an answer, then please be quiet while I'm talking, and I will be quiet while you're talking. Can we agree on that? Let me finish. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, it's a choice to waste all this totally useless amount of electricity. You do not need to create a cryptocurrency in that way. It's a deliberate choice to waste electricity. You could create cryptocurrencies without any waste of electricity. And then there are many examples of cryptocurrencies that are not like that. So the idea of mining cryptocurrencies, I see as just madness. We have still enough resource problems and global warming. You don't need it to create that. And even Bitcoin as a medium of exchange, it has no practical use because the currency is not stable. So it is a good capitalist investment for people who don't like capitalism but want to benefit from the capitalist markets for capital appreciation of assets. And that's basically what Bitcoin is. But there's no reason you could implement, and there are many cryptocurrencies that implemented in such a way that you're not wasting electricity.
Excuse me, gold is not stable. The currency, the fiat, is not stable. This is the market.
I've said that there are problems with the whole monetary system, and the cryptocurrencies are just a continuation of the same problem. Later on, if you read my book when it comes out next year, then you can decide what criticism you would have on the proposed systems that I'm proposing, but there's no time to go into it in details at the moment. But I agree there's problems with other things, but that doesn't justify that I'm going to bring in another thing that is causing even more problem. But the electricity consumption is a major thing because we're talking about global warming. We are trying to cut down on use of fossil fuels for energy, and then to create something where you're wasting lots of fossil fuels for no purpose whatsoever. To me, it is madness.
There's a question in the chat: can governments forbid the cryptocurrencies?
In what way can you could try to forbid it? The way where you would forbid it in such a way to forbid exchanges where you exchange bitcoins and cryptocurrencies for other currencies. There, it's a possibility you could make that illegal. you will probably just drive it underground. So I think that it's a difficult thing to do, but technically they could probably not forbid Bitcoin, because it is the exchange of Bitcoin into present currencies they could try to penalize and make it more difficult. But to ban cryptocurrencies the way they are designed is, I don't see it as feasible.
So there's a whole group here at the Master Unit in Portugal that are watching together, and there's a question from somebody in that group.
So just quickly, I see a lot of, even though the cryptocurrencies might not have changed the fundamentals of the economy, the way the capitalist system is working, do you see that there is a shift of power from the traditional actors in the economy, like bankers, etc.? So from them to a more kind of technocratic world where the people that really understand the fundamentals, the science behind it, the mathematics, the computational sciences, have actually the capacity to create new applications and to bring about change, because actually it would, I think it could render politicians and bankers a bit obsolete, because right now we have algorithms controlling the flows of money and in preventing, in a way, sometimes corruption. So do you see that as a potential possibility for the cryptocurrencies?
What I'm trying to say is that I don't think that the technology in itself changes. That is not what has to change. If the same power actors, which is clearly what we have in the cryptocurrencies also, you have big financial pools for pooling resources, and they are the ones who are making money out of it. People like billionaires invest in it for the chance of capital gains. You're not changing anything. Yes, it's a good technology. It has always been like the Vipras, they come up with technology and then the Vaishyas are finding ways to exploit it. I don't, as you've seen from what I'm saying, I don't find the technology in itself a game changer that changes changes anything fundamentally. Now, the technology can be good and we can use it as if it's part of another change, but the change has to come in the sense of creating a Proutistic economy. Then cryptocurrencies can be part of that. But cryptocurrencies will not bring about a Proutistic society. And there's nothing in the cryptocurrency experiment that in generally that moves in that direction, except that in few cases where people are starting with the social development consciousness, where they're introducing local currencies or others for helping people. But then it is not the cryptocurrency as such that is the driver of change. There must be another driver of change, which is to create a egalitarian society in line with which is sustainable and where we do not destroy more of nature than what nature can regenerate. And then cryptocurrency can be part of it, but I don't see anything in the technology that brings such a change of heart automatically to take place.
Madhavi is asking, what makes certain cryptocurrency not wasteful on energy use?
Well, as I said, the reason why the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are wasteful because they create money through mining. If you stop this, you don't need to create cryptocurrency from mining. You can create new cryptocurrency very easy because you can have a hash algorithm goes very easy from one way. You don't need any computing power to create it if you want it, if you designed it another way. This was designed to waste money. They basically, they said, we have to create a competition. So the competition they have done is whoever wastes the most electricity is going to be rewarded by bitcoins. You could create a currency which says the one who recycles the most plastic bottles are going to be rewarded by Bitcoin. Okay, then you would do something useful. So you have, as I said, you have others that are proof. This is proof of work model. The other common one is proof of stake model, which means that the new bitcoins or the new cryptocurrencies are just created and allocated to people based on what they have already. Now, this is also not egalitarian. It's going to make the rich richer anyway, but it doesn't waste any energy because you don't need, it is this mining process where you're trying to sit and guess numbers. So you can create new, very easy to create new cryptocurrencies if you just choose to create them in a different way. If you want examples, of some cryptos that do not waste energy, but because they don't have any mining, Ripple, Cardano, Polkadot, VeChain token, Stellar Lumens, there are a lot of them. I mean, it is not that it is a must. So there, Neo, IOTA, Tron, Filecoin, Theta. I mean, there's a lot of them that are not depending on mining to trade.
Pratik, who's up very late in the night for this or very early in the morning and is an IT man himself, saying, who and how can you create a new crypto?
I don't understand the who question. You mean who can create a new crypto? Anybody who understands the technology and can create a Bitcoin, a blockchain. And if you know how the blockchain works, you can create and you can look and copy the others, and you just change it the way that they are created and distributed in such a way that you have the it has the function which you want to see in it. If you're trying to make a crypto or any monetary system in such a way that it promotes a widely spread of wealth and improves the living standard of people, and you try to basically, what do you need money for? Money is a source of releasing unutilized resources in the economy. That's the purpose of money. So if you're going to make a normal currency or a cryptocurrency, if you can create money in such a way that people get rewarded for doing something useful, which is not to do Bitcoin mining, you should try to give people money for doing things that have a social benefit. You could do that with the cryptocurrencies as you could do with other currencies. But anybody who has a little bit technical knowledge and can do it this way.
Some questions, someone said, why don't you do it? You have the technical possibility. What's stopping the Proutist from making one? Well, somebody who's got the time.
Because as you understand that I don't believe that it makes any changes, I could then just create the normal local currency. I'm happy to be part of something like that. If you have a good project, but in itself, it does nothing. The currency is not the important thing. It's to come up with a way to try to motivate people to do the right things. And you could use a monetary system for that. But I don't see cryptocurrency as specifically better or worse than other things, but it has its place, right? Someone says that if I listened to a certain something, what was it? If the Bitcoin standard, I should listen to the audiobook. I will reconsider what I said. I think everything I said on Bitcoin is factual true. So I don't see I don't think there is any additional things that would make such a difference that I would that I would reconsider what I said. Maybe I learned something new. I can understand, but everything I say, I stand by it. If anyone can point out that I made a mistake, it happens, but point it out and tell me specifically what is my presentation, or in my analysis is wrong, then that would be very useful, and I would learn something from it also, because none of us are perfect. But if you're just saying that if I read so and so, I will reconsider my position. Okay, well, I don't know if that would happen.
Well, just I mean, a question with a comment. Maybe Govinda could reconsider the point on the energy costs of Bitcoin. I actually don't have the numbers, or how to say that what he's saying is wrong or right. But if we consider that dollar, for example, gets its value through war, for example, so maybe we should consider Bitcoin as a currency that can spend less energy than the way we have spent energy to give value for dollar, for example. I don't know if I make myself clear, but maybe it should be reconsidered. My question goes in this direction. As he said very well, the question is not the technology. The main point is how we use the technology as human beings, as Sadvipras or Proutistic members of a society. So, not a question only for Govinda, but for all of us, is how we can make efforts on creating Sadvipra blockchain, for example, or an economy that when we write our algorithms, we consider the equality of society and so on. So I think my humble suggestion is that we put efforts on creating a Sadvipra blockchain, for example, because I've been for 2 years following up this blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrency upsurge, and I can't see a way back for that. It's an unstoppable movement, and there's I mean the money is going to cryptocurrency economy, and we, liking it or not, we are going to be, if not, we are already part of it. So we should join efforts on trying to get into the cryptocurrency economy in the best way as possible. So maybe a chapter on your book, Govinda, could be how we can create a Sadvipra blockchain. Thank you.
What is true right now is that we are utilizing more resources from the earth and the earth regenerates, which means that as the resources that the earth can generate is dependent on how much resources are there. It means for every year with which we have an ecological overshoot, we are destroying the capacity of maintaining the current, we are reducing the capacity of the earth to regenerate itself. Now, this cannot continue. It will stop in one way or another. Either it will stop because we don't try to do anything stop, we'll suddenly just run into a cliff wall where everything collapses, but it will have catastrophic consequences for humanity, and we will have a enormous extinction and reduction in population and a lot of other life forms on Earth. Or we start to change our ways in time, and we try to make reforms so we can have a prosperous future where we, by design, live in harmony with nature and we don't destroy more than what can be recreated. Now, this has nothing to do with the cryptocurrency. This is the least worry about. If there's a fad of someone wants to do cryptocurrencies and make themselves rich on it, it can be used cryptocurrencies, but that is not where the worries is. The worries is to change the whole monetary financial system and redirect it in such a way that it promotes a sustainable, egalitarian society, equitable society where everybody's needs are being met and we are just using what our satisfying our own needs does not reduce the possibility for future generations to satisfy their needs. This is essential, and this I hope that everybody can agree on. Now, whether the role of cryptocurrencies in these things, they can, as I said, they can play a important role, but it's just on the fringe of the central question.
Somebody asked if anyone knows of any example of a local currency that has benefited the local population that's based on crypto.
That's why I was suggesting go and look at the sovereign.money. They have some examples. There are others. There are also books on local currency. There's a lot of books on good books. If you write me, I can give you references to books on local currencies, and some of those can be implemented as cryptos. The idea, the success of local currencies is quite large, and you can tailor make it to be, there are many things interesting that can be made, and it should definitely be part of any larger monetary system. And to implement them as cryptocurrencies has advantages.
So Kalyani from USA is here with us right now in Portugal, and she's very interested to continue conversations with anyone who would be interested to create a system based on or inspired by and benefiting Prout. And Kalyani, if you want to unmute and say anything yourself.
Thank you so much for a really wonderful conversation. And just like Dada said, I would love to explore this. I think some people in Portugal on the ground are starting to work with the possibility of a great program called Seeds, created by some people connected to the Global Eco Village Network. If nothing else, it would be a good way to explore a possibility. Thank you so much.
I think Seeds, if my memory is right, is one of the cryptocurrencies that are based on a stake, rather a proof of stake rather than a proof of work concept, which means that the idea is to grow that you get a return on the things in growing things, like you're planting a seed and you see it grow into a tree and like that. So definitely better than the Bitcoin things. Someone said Sarkar's currency should be based on bullion or a tangible asset. Well, definitely to have money based on wasting as much electricity as possible, that's definitely not in line with what Baba said about money. I agree that it should be based on something tangible, and that tangible thing is the productive resources of nature, because that's the ultimate wealth of in the world.
Okay, so during and prior to the Prout convention in July, We set up a Discord platform, which during that time was very lively. Rune from Finland is proposing that for anyone interested to pursue these discussions related to setting up a Prout crypto, that they could be using there, because you can do topic-wise discussions. There's already about 130 people who have been using it. Anyone who wants to, well, the link was just sent in the chat. So if anybody's interested to pursue that, there's an opportunity there. And if there are any more burning questions or comments, otherwise we can bring, I think, things to a close. There's been questions both to us by email and by some people here in the chat about recording. The session has been recorded. The recording will be shared, and we'll be sending out a notification about that.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. And if I couldn't convince everybody, at least I hope it stimulated some thought for everybody, and then you knew something a little bit more than what you did before I had my presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
Govinda.